Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Remodeler Show.
Welcome to the Remodeler Show, hosted by Kyle Hunt.
That's me. And I hope you're doing well. What kind of music is that? Is that techno? Is that techno music? Is that club music? Clubbing music? I don't know. But that is the Remodeler Show. We've already got some likes. We've already got some viewers. Hello, hello. If you can give me some likes as you join along. Today is just October 13th, 2020, and it's a variety day. It's just a little variety day on the Remodeler Show. What that means is we're going to touch on, you guessed it, a variety of topics. As we do that, we'll probably use the old tried and true chime method so we know when we are stopping one category and moving to the next. And yesterday, as I was doing some prep for today's show, because as a host, part of my role is to prep nicely for the show, I simply said and put it out there to the people on Remodelers Community. By the way, you might not be part of Remodelers Community. You might be listening to the repurposed podcast version of this episode, because remodelers, business owners, when you create a piece of content, you need to be thinking through, where else can I use this? Oh, I created this piece and I can put it as a social media post. This is also a great email to send out to my list. Oh, this also would be a good little piece that I could use in my sales follow-up from time to time. Always be thinking about, how do you repurpose your content? But if you go to Remodelers Community, remodelers with an S, community.com, if you're not part of that group, you ought to be. Thank you yesterday to Dan, who posted a link to yesterday's show that I had about job costing. He posted that in another Facebook group, and I think we got another like 9 or 10 people, almost up to 900 people in the Remodelers Community. And I'd say you're not going to find a nicer group of remodelers in all the world. I didn't even say the country, in all the world. But I posted, I said, what should I talk about on the Remodeler Show tomorrow? Give me some fodder. And I got a bunch of different things. So we're going to start here. Yes, repurpose. Hi, Brenda. Brenda's checking in from LinkedIn, because we're live on LinkedIn and from YouTube. And Brenda is emphasizing and saying, I second that, repurposing content. The effort that you put into creating content can be used multiple times. Good. Let me know you're out there by clicking the like button and or commenting as we go. This question came from Adam Romano. Adam, good to see you, my friend. And he said, just starting out, have to choose one: Google AdWords, Facebook, or SEO, and why? First, Adam is asking a better question than most, because he added the and why to the end of it. Such a key, right? One thing to say, AdWords. But if you don't give me the why, if you don't give me some context, you don't let me in on your thought process, that doesn't help. So, I'm not necessarily I'm not a website guru, but I do create my fair share of overall marketing plans for remodelers. And if I'm just starting out, I'm definitely, and I have to pick one. So Adam's trying to pin me down here. Get to pick one. Oh, Adam. If I'm just starting out, I'm going to have some precious dollars. I'm not going to have a huge budget to play with. So AdWords is going to sit off to the side. I'm going to assume that we don't have $1,000 a month, $1,200 a month, $2,000 a month to be putting towards AdWords. So that's probably going to get pushed to the side. And Facebook, I can do that. Can I do two, Adam? Yes, I can. I'm the host of the show. Adam, I'm going to do two. We're going to do Facebook. Most likely, we're just going to start getting active on there. I'm going to be posting on my personal page. I'm going to be getting my business page out there. I'm going to be consistent with creating content. But if you had to push me for one, I'd put some effort and time into search engine optimization, that SEO side of things. We all need to have a really rock solid website. We need a website that represents us well, that we're proud to send to prospects. And there's a lot of best practices that when you employ, whether you have somebody do it for you, whether you learn how to use WordPress, how to create keywords, how to create content around keywords, and you start showing up at Kitchen Remodeling, Brighton, Michigan, there is tremendous value in that. So, Adam, I would be researching that. I'd be digging into that. I'd be reaching out to some experts, not to make his phone start ringing, but Brian Sebring is a wonderful remodeler in the Chicago area who has really taken SEO and how to make that work for his website by the reins over the years. So I put some effort towards that, my friend. SEO, we got another person saying SEO, new Google My Business ads, big dollar ROI. Having an active Facebook page can help with SEO. Good point. To Brenda's point, we've got some of these new things going on with Google My Business. GMB stands for Google My Business. You better be able to log in to your local listing on Google. This is when, if you search your business name, city, state, those local listings that show up, that's where your reviews show up. I'm going to pause the show. Why is he pausing the show? I'm pausing the show because we're just going to take a moment to encourage you to get a Google review today. Kyle, nobody wants to do it for me. Literally, I had a client yesterday, hi Grant, who yesterday in my one-on-one meeting with him said, well, if I can get people to do it. And wouldn't you know it, by the end of the day, he had 3 Google reviews. Put some effort. Wade, my man Wade posted the other day going, man, people just are not wanting to set up a Google account. What should I do? And I'm like, man, you've got 25 clients this year. You got 20 from last year. You got 16 from the year before. Maybe your numbers are even more. Don't focus so much on those people. I bet you there's going to be some people that are more than happy to do you a favor. Send a text message to one of your favorite clients and say, can you do me a favor, ? And nothing else. 90% of the time, you're going to get a response to that. And then you say, well, thank you so much for reaching out. Could you leave us a Google review? I'm going to send you just the link and the details on how to do that. Keep it simple. So, and then, okay, that was just an aside. Back to what Brenda said. Google My Business ads. This is new. This is a new feature that Google's starting to roll out where in that local listing, in those local listings, you can advertise. Now, Brenda, I'm not sure if which version or what it looks like on your end, but I have a couple clients going through the process of submitting their business and license information and a decent amount of detail in order to be eligible to do some advertising on there. So it's something that's been dangling out there for a while. It seems like it's starting to get some traction. And if Google is promoting it, we ought to pay attention. Cool. So there is the first question starting out. Choose one, Google AdWords, etc. We ought to move our way to the next one. This one is fresh off a coaching call I did this morning. You hear me talk about it all the time. What's your takeaway? Hey, before you jump off the Remodeler Show, if you could share what your takeaway was. I do that because it gives me information and it's interesting to see what people's takeaways are. I also do that because it allows the person who you're asking the question to reflect on what they heard and say, that one. Above everything else, that is what I heard. You guys need to do this. Anytime you have a group meeting of any sort, you bring together your team of carpenters or your designers or whoever it is. When you get done with whatever that meeting was, don't end that meeting until you go around the horn and say, all right, everybody share your takeaway from today. And why, that last part. Or when they share a takeaway and they say, well, man, I just really liked what you said about the Google reviews. If I'm listening to that, I go, why? Why did you like that one? Well, I've been hearing about it a lot. It's a good reminder and I need to put some effort towards it. And it just kind of gave me the nudge I need to actually take some action on it. So ask what the takeaway from today's meeting is. And then if you're curious or if it's helpful, say why, because that just embeds that idea even deeper into that person. And that's going to lead to more implementation. Okay. It's a simple, that's management. That's leadership. That's effectively running a meeting. That's getting you some input back. What's super interesting, especially if you're in a group of 6 or 7 people, when you ask this question, what I'm always surprised by is, wow, that I didn't even really see that in today's meeting, but I was listening to how he said this and it just reminded me of the importance of blank. Sometimes when you ask this, it's surprising what people come up with their takeaway. Okay, so Variety Day is what today's Remodeler Show is about. That was for my Canadian clients when I said about. Happy day after Thanksgiving to them. Just starting out, right? Talked about some SEO, talked about some Google, talked about some Google reviews. And then here's just a little takeaway that hopefully you'll have about takeaways. Let's see what the next one is. Letting go of control as an owner. This is something that Paul J. McManus posted when I asked, hey, what should I talk about tomorrow? It didn't expand this. I might have to pull this up a little bit because he had some good stuff in here. Paul said this. Talk about this, Kyle. Letting go of control as an owner. I struggled with that a lot and have seen a number of posts / comments lately that lead me to believe a lot of people are struggling, not just with hiring, but with giving control to those they hire. And he went on to say, I think there's 4 basic steps. So here's what Paul has learned as he thinks about and has experienced and lived through how to hand off responsibility and control as an owner. 4 basic steps. Number 1, hire people using a good position agreement. What he means by that is not just a little bit of a description of the job, but a position agreement. Vicky Suter talks and uses this phrase a lot, of a position agreement. A good, well-written position agreement is going to be very, very clear with what your true responsibilities are. If I have a responsibility as a project manager to manage the project, okay, I guess that's a task. But if I have a position agreement that says, as part of managing a project, that requires on every Friday to have an updated 2-week schedule. It requires on Friday to review your active and up-to-date job cost report. Getting very clear with what those responsibilities are so that we can actually measure them and hold people accountable to it. So I kind of just added on to what Paul said there. 4 basic steps. If you want to let go of control as an owner, you've got to have a really solid position agreement. Number 2, build systems you trust and track progress. I don't know exactly what he means by that. It certainly probably depends on the position that we're talking about and the person, but process, we know what that means, right? Having very clear, hey, in order to execute this, you need to do these 6 things. Make sure your team is armed with a nice, solid list of step-by-step instructions, and then track progress. Are you sitting down one-on-one? Are you meeting regularly to go over how it's working, how it's doing? Not rocket science, right? Number 3, let go and manage from a distance. I'll share a story. No comments? I figure I was going to come back to this and there'd be some comments. Give me some comments or some other questions from other topics, and throw me some more likes too. Although I see Rhonda and Michael and Bailey and Michaela and Jim. A couple weeks ago, we were out at my parents' house, and I have been talk about letting go of responsibility. I have failed at that as a dad. I've got a 14-year-old son who I may have coddled a little bit too much because he's a 14-year-old boy and he was a 12-year-old boy, an 11-year-old boy. And sometimes it's just easier. Listen to me say this. It's easier for me to just do it than to watch him flail away at it and not do it right. What are you talking about? Well, it could be this. It could be doing the dishes. It could be cleaning up. It could be putting laundry away, whatever around the house things. And I have realized I have got to give him some responsibility and some control to do things, right? Similar, there's a lot of relationship between a parent-child relationship and how you also manage an employee well. It's just true. So we're out at my parents', and my dad and my son and I are down there, and we're doing a bonfire that night. My dad's got kind of things all prepped. He's 5P'd it. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Bill Hunt rocks that out. He had he even had like the paper already crumpled. And I said, Dad, I've been working a lot lately with Thomas to have him do things instead of me doing it for him. And I said, he's going to build the fire and we're going to coach him. And so my dad goes, okay. And it literally gets off to a terrible start. He goes, all right, Thomas, what do we put on first? The kindling or the paper? And Thomas said, the kindling first. And then we put the paper on top. My son actually is quite smart, but he failed at the start. My dad knows no less than 3 times I had to say, Dad, let him do it. Dad, let him do it. Let him do it. He's going to learn that way. And my dad was just like, he's not doing it right. He's not doing it the way I would want him to do it. The only way Thomas is going to learn how to set a fire well and have the feeling of satisfaction of doing it, of actually accomplishing it, of watching, of, and then we got to the match and he's flailing around the match and he tried it 3 times and he had it up here, then he brought it down here. And wouldn't you know it, the match got unlit. My dad wanted to go in there. Dad, stop, let him do it. And wouldn't you know it, by the 3rd or 4th time, Thomas figured it out. Do you guys hear exactly the correlation between stepping back and letting your team either fail at it and come in and explain it, or just have the experience and the pride of doing it? How often do we just step in because we know how to do it and it's just easier if I would just do it, and he didn't do it right the last time, so I just got to do it again? If you don't want to own all the different parts of the responsibility of your business, if you want to have some work-life balance, if you want to have the ability to take Friday off because you want to stink and go fishing or golfing, because golfing is more fun than fishing, or if you want to spend a Friday where you can just think strategically about the business, you've got to figure out how to hand off responsibility. So Paul's touching on that when he goes, let go and manage from a distance. And I think that example of my dad and setting a fire, you guys should be able to relate directly to that. You've got to let go of that responsibility. Teach, set them up for success, but we've got to be patient. But the other side of that, as they get skilled, as they get better, is really fertile ground, is really good place to be taking your business. And the 4th thing that Paul talked about, letting go of control as an owner, 1, hire people using a good position agreement. 2, build systems you trust and track progress. Let go and manage from a distance. And number 4, reward and support your team. Reward and support your team. They should be challenged, but not overworked. You reward them, figure out ways to do that, and support your team. One thing that Paul, he's part of one of my mastermind groups, and I hear him talk about this often, is not waiting to hire until we're at 117% capacity of everybody on the team, but making that investment in the business that takes us from 95% capacity back down to 80% capacity. Because that extra time allows us to work on the business and to improve our systems and processes and takes the load off of people so they can do their job better. So I think that's something that is also part of letting go of control as an owner. Okay, good. Great book, 1 Minute Manager. Good. Whoever that is, if you go to streamyard.com/Facebook, you can find that. Jim said writing this stuff down. Good, my man. Yeah, 1 Minute Manager. I own that book because my man Jason Carmack with Vision Construction down in the Natty, he's part of one of my Remodeler Circle groups, and he's a client of mine. He recommended it to everybody. So of course I did what I always do, which is I buy the book. It arrives. I haven't opened it up yet, but good reminder. Whoever said that, 1 Minute Manager, sounds like a winner. All right, let's keep going with the variety day. I think Tate might have put this, talk about how to let go as a leader, how to train, inspire, and empower others to take control and lead. I feel like I hit on that pretty hard, but even just the way that Tate is setting that up, how to train. Let me teach you how to train. Slow down, let them do it, show them the first time. Here's also how to train. One of my clients up here in Michigan has created a really solid two-page thing of just a bunch of bulleted topics that says, okay, my team needs to get more skilled out in the field. My lead carpenters need to get more skilled out in the field. What are the things I need to teach them and train them? And he really spent some time going through and thinking through all of that. He's got a really nice list. That's step 1. You want to train well, create a list of the things that you need to train on. Let me pause there for dramatic effect. If you want to train well, if you want your team to get better, think about it. Create a good, solid list of exactly what they need to train on. When he created that list, he thought through all of the challenges and issues they've been having on job sites and the way that they're trimming this and the way that they were doing that. And with some training, they can improve that and we can get it right the first time. And what he has done is once a week, and he's not setting it up where it's a specific day and time, but his KPI, his key performance indicator when it comes to training is once a week, he is doing literally some training, actual training. It might be a half hour, might be an hour, might be on a job site, it might be at the end of their weekly team meeting, but that's his goal, is once a week to do some training. So how do you train? Make that good solid list of what you want to be training. Set up a good cadence of how we're going to do that and execute it. Okay. Inspire. You gotta share more of these nuggets of wisdom. You guys got some good quotes that might inspire some people. You guys got a nice testimonial from one of your clients, or you just had a nice conversation with one of your clients. That should be a text message going out to your entire team. Maybe some of your your key trade partners too. They need to hear more about the good stuff going on in the business. My employee Bailey, I'm assuming, I haven't really asked her this, is more fired up about her job when every time I hear something good, certainly about what she's done, or just about process that she's involved in, or just the overall company, when I'm sharing consistently with her, hey, so-and-so told us the other day this, hey, I got this email that was just super encouraging to me, and I wanted to pass it along to you. Thank you for your help, because this wouldn't happen without you. So inspiring, share more of that. Share quotes that inspire you. And then empower to take control and lead. I think that goes back to what I was talking about. I had to literally grab my dad's hand. Dad, don't touch that piece of wood. I know he was supposed to TP those big pieces of wood and he's failed. He's got to pick it back up. Let him pick it back up. Let him try it again. This is the first time he's done it. Leave him alone. We showed him. Let him do it. He's going to learn by doing. Empowering, and also, when I think of specifically on the remodeling side, you empower one of your employees that is stepping into a leadership role as a lead carpenter, and you empower him when he comes to you and says, or she comes to you and says, I'm having some trouble with Johnny, and I think we need to talk to him about timeliness. He's continually showing up late. There's a time as you're empowering them to take control and lead where you say, okay, I want you to do this. Do you have here's some tips on how to handle it and when to handle it and how to do it. Here's some things here's a way to kind of start with maybe a question instead of going on the offense right away. And I want you to take the lead and have this conversation. Do you have any questions for me on how to do it, or you feel prepared? Feel prepared? Excellent. And then after that's done, you better have a conversation with Sam, who's your lead carpenter, and say, hey, how did it go? What did you learn? What worked? What didn't work? What was your takeaway from it? What was the next thing, that we talked about? Basic blocking and tackling. So much of it, though, comes down to slowing down, right? Slowing down. Okay. One minute manager, cool. Accurate, cool. Oh, they said that was accurate, good. The dangers of bad metrics, seeing intangibles. I was Michelangelo, he's way smarter than me. And when I read his line, I was kind of like, I don't really understand, but that's probably because Michael's smarter than me. And then Tate kind of played off it, and Michael said, yes, that's kind of what I meant. And Tate said, it's like trying to measure the true value of a baseball player by stats alone. So we get really focused on stats, on metrics, on top line revenue, on gross profit, on net profit, on whatever metrics we use, financially speaking. Wouldn't you know it, that so many things, I think it's what Michael was getting at, and it's what Tate was getting at. There's so many things that we really can't measure that are intangibles, that go into the success of a project, that go into the value that an employee brings to the table. Tate said, it's like trying to measure the true value of a baseball player by stats alone. The players and coaches know who means the most to the team without looking at the stats. There are many intangibles that tell the whole story. I might have a guy on my team or a gal on my team that might not be the most skilled carpenter, but wow, do they bring some energy to the group, positive attitude to the group. They listen well. They respect people. They're just such a great example, and they're not that good. I got 4 guys that are better than them, but he or she's worth more to me because of the intangibles. So I think that's the heart of what Michael was getting at, is let's make sure we're not just focusing or tying success into certain metrics. Let's make sure we're looking at all the intangibles that people have as well. Gerald had a main question here. Explain how a team, here's what you can talk about, Kyle. Explain how a team as loaded as the Yankees could be out of the playoffs. I really need to know. I think Gerald is a Yankees fan, and I think he's frustrated that the Yankees are not and no longer in the playoffs. I am struggling to watch sports and get excited about it. NBA, and there's like little pictures of people in the stands, like, man, that's just a difference. I'm usually tied in with Major League Baseball. I had to look it up last week. Is it the World Series? Are they still in the regular season? I had no idea, which is super weird for me. I'm usually tied in with the playoffs at least, or if the Tigers are doing well, then I'm really in there. But Gerald, it happens, dude. You know what? It happens. And maybe it was overconfidence. Maybe it was ego. Maybe it was they need to feed off that Yankee Stadium crowd, and it was more of a neutral field. I think the reason I took it that way is to try to find some value in this. Why does a company that's not as good win that job over you, who's better, and we know you're better? Maybe they were hustling more. Maybe they were more timely. Maybe they had planned and prepared better. Maybe they slowed down and really sold that client more on their value. You know what I'm saying? So make sure the fundamentals, maybe they were just skipping over the fundamentals. Make sure that you're strong in the fundamentals. There is the intangible, yes, but also metrics that don't paint a complete or full picture of company health or client satisfaction. Okay. Yeah. Maybe go back. Maybe we can talk about that again later in the week or on another remodeler show. Yeah, I think Jim wants to know too. Give us some more examples, Michael. You're onto something. I hear you. You're onto something here, but give us some more examples of it, and then that'll really drive it home. All right, another one. We got 4 minutes left in today's show. Eat your frog. I have asked 2 out of the 3 meetings I had this morning. At the end of the meeting, I had sent over the action steps. We had our next meeting booked with my client, and I said, all right, what's your frog? First person I asked had no idea what I was even talking about. And I was disappointed because they followed my content for a long time. And then the second person knew exactly what I was talking about. But I thought I'd share this with you. What does eat your frog mean? It's a Brian Tracy. He's a professional development guy back in the 70s and 80s. And he had this analogy that said, if you had to eat a live frog every day, what would you do? If you had to eat a live frog every day, what would you do? The analogy is that the frog is the most important thing you need to get done that you're most likely to put off. Frog equals most important thing you need to get done that you're most likely to put off. If you actually had to eat a frog, a live frog, are you just going to eat it first thing in the morning and get it over with and done? Or are you just going to put it off? If you put it off, it is going to distract you. It is going to zap your energy. It is going to make your day worse. So this idea of if you can identify your frog, the most important thing that you're most likely to put off, and if you can eat it first thing, your day is off and rolling. And that day is going to go much better than if you didn't identify the main thing and just let the day come at you and hit you around, or if you put it off and you need to do it, it's going to distract you and whoop you all day long. So eat your frog. There actually is an answer, and it's rooted in probabilities. I get to after I get over my disappointment later this week, maybe. Okay, interesting. Daryl, I also thought, yes, so there might be some probabilities with why the Yankees are not in the playoffs. And that is certainly part of it. But I kind of liked where I was going with that, right? Of just, that's why they play the game. There might be probabilities. That's why they play the game. Maybe those other boys were more fired up. Maybe one person had a better day. Maybe they were more prepared. Maybe, they got in the other person's head. Maybe it was ego and pride that got in the way of it. We're expected to win. The odds makers are telling us we're going to win, and they let their guard down. I don't know. Y'all are going to make me write another article for the magazine. Good. Do it. Haven't heard of that one. I'll check it out. Michael, I believe Leaders Eat Last with that subject. I haven't read it yet. It's on the list. Good. All right. So what's your takeaway? What's your takeaway from today? Let me go through a couple of things. Maybe I'll do this on Thursday. Somebody else asked about end of year projections, budgeting for 2021. Somebody else asked trying to figure out the new normal, what that might be. I had some thoughts on company meetings versus meals and entertainment. I had some thoughts on decisive decisions. And by golly, I'll do another show on Thursday this week, and we'll get into some of those and anything else that's on your mind. But just to recap, because we don't recap enough. We don't have meetings, we don't have trainings, we don't go to a seminar and take the time to recap and really let it sink in. So share what your takeaway is, and then let me just kind of review things. Somebody asked about Google AdWords, Facebook, or SEO. I kind of push towards the SEO as far as once you get that nailed, the ROI and the long-term payback is strong. Plus, with this person that said just starting out, That's a little easier way to bootstrap that than big advertising budget on Google AdWords. What's your takeaway from today's meeting? Next team meeting you have, make sure it ends with, what's your takeaway from this meeting? It's going to give you some really interesting input, and don't be afraid to say, why was that your takeaway? That's going to get really into it. Make sure your team and team meetings are talking. If you have a team meeting and you're doing the majority of the talking, if you have all of your carpenters and folks around you and you're doing the majority of the talking, you've got to look at how you're doing that meeting. It's not engaging. It's boring. They're not engaged. They're not on their toes. They're not ready to answer things. So look at how to get them more engaged. And a lot of that means assign them to one of the parts of leading one part of the meeting. Make sure you're asking questions and not giving answers. Letting go of control as an owner. Being self-aware of that. I mentioned Thomas, that's the T, and the fire, and how I had to grab my dad's hand 20 different times to let Thomas learn how to do it, even though he wasn't doing it well. Continue to coach. Paul had some good 1, 2, 3, 4 on that. Okay, eat your frog, etc. Good. Simon Sinek, leaders eat last. That must be related to something that we talked about here. Cool. So there's some more wisdom that you can grab in the comments there. I hope you got a takeaway from today's remote show. Appreciate you calling in. Were you just bored twiddling your thumbs? You're like, oh, this looks interesting, and you dialed in. Whether you are just seeking to continue to improve your remodeling business and you're just looking for that next nugget to continue to be inspired, fired up. That's a big reason why I do this. Or if you were just eating your lunch and you wanted to be entertained and you already know everything, but hopefully you're entertained by some facet of this. Sinek. Ugh. Is Michael not a fan of Simon Sinek? I kind of like some of his stuff. I'm not a huge fan. It's interesting how some people, like, I used to be a huge Seth Godin guy. I remember going and seeing Seth Godin in person. It was like, what, rock star? He's kind of fallen just off my radar. I think he's still got a ton of wisdom. So I don't know if that is I don't like him or what. But whatever, we're a community. I bet you we'll find out that as you either comment on that or we talk another time. All right, today's show is over. Go kick some butt today, people. By the way, your attitude and how you go about the rest of your day is going to dictate how your day goes. If you go the rest of your day and you're kind of like, or if you go, I'm going to kick some stinking butt, you're going to kick some stinking butt. If you're like, I'm going to haphazardly just kind of check my email and do stuff, it's going to be a haphazard afternoon. Don't be lackadaisical. Get after it. Uh-oh. Jim says a little pretentious. Wait, are you talking about me? Jim, are you talking about me? Not a fan. He's so distorted in his one reality. Both of you, I think you're talking about me. Why don't you guys just not dial in on Thursday? Just like you. I know you guys are talking about that Simon Sinek. You love me.